Hey y'all, it's Stephen Van Kampen-Lewis, and I just got 3 plants in the mail from Francisco Miranda. They are imports from Brazil, of course, because that is his specialty. 2 of them are Constantias, which I'm super excited about, and then the other one is a Rupiculous Cattleya. And so I'm going to pot all of them up. And actually, when I say pot them up, I'm really only going to pot one up, and then I'm going to mount 2. So I will show all of those to you. Anyway, let's take a look. I'll try to make this video quick since mounting videos shouldn't really take that long, and then putting a bunch of sand in a small clay pot also shouldn't take that long. But let's get the camera turned around. Okay, I have everything here that I'm going to use for potting and mounting material. And this is the pot and media that I will actually use for the Rupiculous Cattleya, which is munchowiana. I encourage you to look that one up. It's pretty cool. And this is the plant itself. So you can see, as with most of these Rupiculous Cattleyas, fairly small. Got some nice new root tips popping out here. And so this one is a perfect candidate to get into this pot and fill it mostly with sand. And of course I use sand because that's what they grow in the wild. So if you're growing Rupiculous Cattleyas, don't grow them on wood. That's not how they grow. They grow in this stuff. And in fact, here's a quick video showing you roughly what they look like, what the media looks like in the wild. And it's this very thin sand on a thick layer of bedrock with a little bit of sand and then a little tiny bit of organic material or dirt mixed in. So to replicate that, what I'm going to do here is take this clay pot, and you can see there's a hole in the bottom. As you can imagine, that sand will come out of the hole. So I just take a small rock. I mean, you can take a small rock, or if you've got a broken clay pot somewhere, putting some of that material on the bottom works. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this sand and mix it with about half of this peat. And this is actually Pro Mix, so it's got a little bit of extra stuff in there, but it's mostly peat. So all of the sand with about half this, I would say, is probably a 20-80 mix of sand and peat. So let me mix that up here in my bucket, and then we'll get potting. All right, so it's fairly mixed. A little bit of sand left in there, and then maybe get some of these larger chunks out of the peat that sort of doesn't want to break up. But what I do is I'll pour a little bit in here to get that rock in place, nice and covered up. Then I'll drop this in here. Of course, I want to make sure that the new growth is facing the middle of the pot and the old growth is in the back. I don't think those older growths are growing, so this works well like this. Looks like I need a little bit more sand and peat. And that's it. That looks good. So now I get the tag back in here, and I will put this aside, get it in with my typical orchid or my typical Cattleya house for the Rupiculous Cattleyas, which is an IKEA cabinet. And I'll get this one nicely watered in here in a little bit. And clean this up, of course. Okay, so the next one is Constantia kipuensis. And this one grows on Valosia bushes. So it actually grows on the wood of a small shrub in the drier, more arid parts of Brazil, the interior there. And so this is what it looks like. This is a monstrous plant. This is absolutely humongous. I am over the moon with how nice of a plant this is. It's super healthy, super big, and best of all, not necessarily very well attached to this. So this would probably work well in Florida, but in my cabinet where I water 2 to 3 times a week, it's not something that I'm particularly interested in using. And even better, I don't know if you can see, new roots are starting here, and this is great. So this will probably adapt fairly quickly to this mount. And so I'm going to mount it here on this, and then I will get it into its new home inside the orchid cabinet. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this floral twine and I'm going to wrap it a whole bunch of times around this plant on top of this mount, and that should really be it. All right, so my first one will be a twist like this. Make sure it's very nice and tight. And then I'm going to wrap the whole thing as many times as I can. And I'm pulling pretty tight, so I'm probably going to hurt some leaves. I hope not too many or too badly. But you really want this cinched down exceptionally well. And then I'm going to tie it onto this original one. I'll end up clipping this off, but that's it. It's fairly simple, right? Cinch down tightly. And this is a metal wire, much easier to work with than fishing line. And that's it. All right, so the last one is Constantia cristinae, which you can see the name here. Of course, named after Christina, Francisco Miranda's wife. And what I want to do, so first of all, let's take a look at this. This is a monstrous clump. And there are new roots. I don't know if you can see there, but teeny tiny new roots. And this enormous, gigantic, mature clump is so cool. I'm very happy to have it. And here's a quick video of their natural habitat when I was there in late August, early September of 2024. And seeing them in the wild really made me want to have some of these. And I'm so glad that Francisco got them. And you can see that they're growing on the side of granite rock, just sheer granite rock. So what I want to do is, rather than grow them on any sort of mount that could break down over time, I want to make sure that I have this on essentially a rock that will never break down. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it on the side of this clay pot, and then I'm going to put it inside this pot here, so that when I water, what will happen is some will catch in the bottom here and then slowly wick back up, so that this plant will stay a little wet a little longer than if it was just mounted like this. Because mounts like this in my enclosure, I think they'll dry out a little too quickly. So this species really wants to dry off quickly, but I think that might be too quick. So if I have a teeny tiny bit of water in here that can slowly wick up over the course of, however many couple of hours after I water it takes to get the water, whatever collects in the bottom here, up on this, I think that'll be really beneficial. And of course, if I find that it's too wet, I can just take this away, right? So, creating a system where there's additional water than what I can give it, 2 or 3 times a week, is more difficult than creating a system that might be a little tiny bit too wet that can be easily dried out if needed. So, what's interesting is this sort of elastic stretchy band came with the plants, and it's wrapped around here with some cocoa fiber underneath. But what I can do is use the stretchy band to hold this on here, and maybe use a little bit of twine to stabilize it additionally. And so I did a little test with this, and as you can imagine, putting the twine around this way, it just sort of wants to shoot up and then kind of come off. But if I take this stretchy band and do this real quick, I think that'll create a system that'll actually stay over time. At least we'll hold it in this direction. And let's see if we can get this other one to stay without sliding up. I am not optimistic that I can get this around again, actually. If I go from the top. So that actually looks pretty good. That's pretty solid. That's a good mount. I'm really surprised at how well that worked. And so I'll get this here and get this in the terrarium, or excuse me, the IKEA cabinet, and that's it. So final parting shot. I have soaked this one already. This is the kipuensis. This is the Cattleya munchowiana, excuse me. Added a little water, so it should be good to go. I might add a little bit more sand, maybe like a teeny tiny little bit. And then this is the cristinae, the Constantia cristinae. And this one is definitely going to get a quick water after I turn this video off. Anyway, hope you're having a great weekend. Talk to you later. Bye.